Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today we're going to be looking at another round of L's being collected by games journalists. Now here's the relevant headline: IGN, GamesIndustry.biz, and Humble losing talent to soft layoffs. Now you'd be hard pressed to find any gamers who were upset about this most recent round of layoffs. However, it's very interesting to see a lot of people from the industry, including journalists and their supporters, acting like this most recent round of layoffs is shocking, because this is something that anyone can see if they're not in the echo chamber that exists in the games journalism scene. If you look at the forest from the trees, you've been seeing this coming for a very long time. Let's face it, the entire monetization setup for these games journalists nowadays, like at IGN and Kotaku, is to produce rage bait slop with the hope that someone's going to hate click on your article just long enough to give you a fraction of a penny's worth of ad revenue. And even now, with the current state, people aren't even hate clicking on these articles anymore. Instead, they're watching someone like a YouTuber talk about it instead. And honestly, this round of layoffs with these companies is not too surprising. You can see this tweet talking about the GamesIndustry.biz, where basically they've been fully gutted by this recent round of layoffs. But with IGN, there's something a little more particular going on here. It seems like they axed some of their key members. You can see this Kotaku reporter here saying, IGN news director Kat Bailey is leaving today, along with an exodus of other employees following buyout offers from Ziff Davis, an incredible talent and games media veteran whose work I've loved and followed for what feels like forever. Oh, what will these incredible talents do now that they're leaving? But who is this Kat Bailey individual, and what does her incredible work look like? Well, here is her announcement saying this is it and that she's leaving, and she'll be focusing on her podcast and other personal projects, which we have seen a lot of journalists doing this recently. People like Alyssa Mercante doing this as well, where they're focusing on extra platforms. They're almost trying to be content creators, which is really ironic because all of these people hate YouTubers and anyone who makes content like that. But now they're trying to follow in their footsteps because they're seeing what's happening. The ship is sinking with games journalism, and they're trying to find another source of revenue. But why do people talk about Kat Bailey? If you look at the replies, a lot of people are celebrating this or just being completely indifferent. Well, she's had a pretty rough 2024, and we're going to look at some of that incredible work that was just mentioned. We'll look at her two greatest hits of 2024, beginning with this article right here. Kai Cenat has beaten Elden Ring after marathon 167-hour playthrough in viral stream. Okay, that seems pretty fine. Like, why are people outraged about this? Well, this was the original headline. Kai Cenat, the popular Twitch streamer who once incited a riot in New York with a giveaway event, has finished Elden Ring. Okay, that's weirdly aggressive. I think everyone can agree on that. And it seems like a very odd reaction and passive-aggressive one when you're really referring to a story that's like a feel-good story. Like, who in the gaming industry or what gamer would be upset about this headline? Like, I'm not a Kai Cenat fan. It's just not for me. But I remember seeing updates of this when it was happening on Twitter, and I thought it was pretty wholesome, right? It was very obvious that Kai really enjoyed this game and fell in love with it and was putting a lot of passion into it, and it was just a good experience. But over at IGN, they're having these passive-aggressive headlines. Very weird. And also, to clarify, was he found in a traditional court guilty of inciting a riot? Of course not. But he was found guilty in the court of IGN, as it appears. But this would cause a massive amount of backlash. Eventually, this tweet would be deleted, the article would be edited, and Kat would issue an apology. But that's not the only article that was like a weird attempt at a hit piece. They also did this with Warhammer, where you can see the headline here that Saber Interactive won't say whether or not a controversial YouTube comment is from its CEO. And you can see it gets hit with a note saying this is a clickbait article, because after digging through all of it, that controversial comment from its CEO was just a comment on an Asmongold video where he said that we should focus on making games that focus on fun and immersion and not message pushing and virtue signaling and political things and stuff like that. That was the controversial comment that they're setting up here. And obviously it was just clickbait slop trying to make Warhammer and also Asmongold look like they're doing something controversial when they clearly were not. And on top of that, while we're here, why don't we just celebrate 2024 for IGN and look at some of their best articles by other authors beyond just Kat. So who could forget the hit piece by IGN targeting Game Science, the developer of Black Myth Wukong, just before the game would release, where they claimed that there was a sexist environment at Game Science and that the heads of the company were a bunch of sexists. And as you can see, another note would hit this, instantly dispelling this hit piece by IGN, because the quotes in particular that were used were ridiculous mistranslations. Like, they were so egregious that many people assume that this was intentionally mistranslated to basically frame them as sexist for this the purposes of this hit piece. But that didn't stop journalists from all around the scene from sharing this article and boosting it themselves, even though it already had been debunked at that point. Very weird thing with Black Myth Wukong and games journalists. But anyways, they also were the ones who gave Concord a 7 out of 10. Yep, as they do with pretty much everything. A 7 out of 10 on a game that, in their own article, said it's going to go the distance and it's going to be around for years to come, which, of course, it didn't even survive 2 weeks. On top of that, they wrote this weird hit piece earlier this year about Resident Evil 5, where they said there's no remake that could be made under the standards of Capcom's work. And of course, hit with another note as well, because this article is essentially trying to speak on Capcom's behalf. And what's the logic behind why this game can't be remade? Well, they say that it's basically insensitive, because the game takes place in Africa. There's a zombie outbreak. Therefore, you have to kill Africans. And according to this author, that is racially motivated and insensitive, which is the most insane logic you'll ever hear. But also here, let's not forget the French division of IGN. I'm not going to let this one slip, where they made an attack on Shift Up and Stellar Blade, claiming that Eve, her design from Stellar Blade, is just bland and a doll sexualized by someone who has never seen a woman. And of course, we all know that Eve's design was based on a real-life human woman. And on top of that, this is one of the art team leaders who is the wife of this supposed incel who was the director of this game. On top of that, there was more translated posts about related articles from the French division of IGN, where they essentially claim that designs like Eve from Stellar Blade are literally getting women killed in real life. Like, totally unhinged stuff. But anyways, as you can see, that initial post from that Kotaku reporter is getting clowned on. You can see the ratio here, flash ratioing them with this reply saying, how's that owning the chuds thing going for you guys? Which again, this just shows the disconnect between journalists and gamers. And these journalists don't even realize how much their really intended audience, their necessary audience to survive, hates them. Right? When you go for years and years mocking gamers, demonizing them, and trying to basically survive on rage bait targeting them, who would have thought eventually nobody would support you? The people you need to keep the lights on, they feel like you hate them, so they're not going to check out anything you're doing. But anyways, as we're talking about this individual who made that original post, you can see senior reporter at Kotaku. That's a nice little transition to this article that was recently released about a week ago. This was not the same author we just looked at, but someone else at Kotaku. But of course, it's always relevant with the ongoing dunking of people just dunking on Kotaku every single day. But here's the article. The campaign against Avowed reveals the bigotry that fuels the anti-woke. Wow, stunning and brave headline. Remember this whole claim about bigotry, but before we look at that, just understand the entire purpose of this article is to say that YouTubers, probably like myself, are these grifters who are exploiting this game, and they're trying to add in some culture war stuff and monetize it while they're doing it. And they're literally doing the flip side of that with this article. They are trying to argue against this or bring in their own culture war stuff while literally monetizing this article. They are a grifter by their own definition. But for the article itself, there's one section I want to look at because it's just hilarious, right? So they're claiming this whole thing, the bottom of all this is bigotry. That's why people are attacking Avowed and their team, where they say around the time of Gamescom this year, the usual suspects started loudly condemning Avowed at the next piece of woke mind virus added DEI. Why? What sin had it committed? Had a mission leaked in which you're forced to help a gay polycule adopt a cat identifying trans child at an abortion clinic? Brother, what are you talking about? Nope, it was this image. So they're claiming all the outrage surrounding Avowed was just because of this image, which I have never even seen anyone mad about this, but I guess they're just trying to deflect what is the real reason that Avowed was criticized, and it had nothing to do with this image. It had everything to do with comments made by the art director at Avowed. If you don't remember, Elon Musk made a tweet saying that pronouns are not acceptable in a fantasy video game, where this art director said sickos.jpg. I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game, and I can't believe it actually happened. Just wait until you see the default, you sad little shit. Basically saying the entire reason they're making choices for their game is to piss off people like Elon Musk, which is just deranged. On top of that, he says it's surreal, and he's giddy about the fact that he's irritating Elon Musk, and he's going to continue making these decisions. On top of that, people started pointing out that this art director is implying that it's okay for a company in the games industry to be racist and sexist against white guys, where Elon Musk says this is illegal behavior, and then he tagged the CEO of Microsoft as a result. And going further, another tweet from this art director basically said that he gives priority in business-related decisions to black artists over other artists. And that is just, again, another potentially illegal thing. And while we wrap up this video, there's one more tweet reacting to one of the previous tweets we looked at in this video, where this individual has been in the games journalism scene for a long time. Says, games journalism is like fewer than 40 people now. Magazines are basically gone and websites are close behind them. None of this is a surprise to me, but it's incredibly sad. We had something awesome for a while there. Younger generations have no idea what they missed out on. I don't know what golden era of games journalism this person is referring to, because for the last part of really 2 decades, the entire scene has existed to attack and try to push out gamers from their own medium. And guess what? It's now the trash taking itself out because they've become obsolete. They've done such a bad job for so many years. Nobody even wants to hate click on these articles anymore. Nobody wants to read their slop and their activism and all these things. Instead, they're getting all of their related news from other sources, whether it's people on Twitter or YouTubers or what have you. And yes, this was a long time coming for anyone paying attention, but there was really no golden age to look back on. There was nothing that you really missed over the years. It's just people have gotten so tired of all these games journalists that it's actually impacted them to the point where they're all starting to shut down, and these layoffs are becoming a very regular thing. And unfortunately for them, anyone outside of their little bubble doesn't care. Or in fact, a lot of people are happy to see this happen because it's progress in the games industry. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.